All right. So you want to hear about the time I messed up with the safe room keys and how everyone acted like it was the end of the world. Just because I was trying to keep things, secure, they thought he was hiding equipment. But really, it was just complicated. Hey, I'm Chloe. I'm 28. And yeah, I've been around the block a few times. 2 deployments to Afghanistan will do that to a girl. You learn things. You see things, and you definitely learn who you can trust. Which, let me tell you, isn't many people, especially not when you're dealing with a bunch of guys who think they know everything, just because they've got a little more time in service. This whole thing started with Ben. Ben, my boyfriend, who was also in my squad. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Don't dip your pen in the company ink well. Right. But what do you expect when you're stuck in a fob in Kandahar for months on end? Options are limited, and sometimes you just need someone who gets it. He was a good guy. Too nice. Actually, that was his problem. Always trying to avoid conflict. Always bending over backward for everyone, including me. It used to be sweet, how accommodating he was. But then it just got annoying. Like, make a decision already, so we're out there. Right. Dust. Heat. Same old, same old. Our platoon had this safe room. Not a big deal. Just a reinforced container we use for sensitive gear. Radios. Night vision. All that expensive stuff you don't want walking off. And it had a pretty serious lock. Not some dinky padlock. The keys were supposed to be rotated among a few of us. The senior NCOs and the LT, and technically, Ben, being an E6 and pretty squared away, was supposed to have a set keyword. The thing is, Ben had this habit of misplacing things. Not like losing his weapon, but little stuff. His multi-tool, his spare mags, his dipkin, and the safe room keys. Those were important. I warned him, Ben, seriously? You lose those keys. It's a whole thing. Kjarfi, inventory. The works. But did he listen? Of course not. He'd just give me that sheepish grin. The one that used to make me melt. And say, don't worry, babe, I got it. But I didn't trust him. And between us, I had a little secret. I'd made a copy of his key. Just in case. Not for anything nefarious. Just for security. Because who else was going to look out for us? If not me. The LT was always off doing LT things, which mostly involved trying to impress the captain. And the other guys, forget about it. They were too busy playing Call of Duty on their laptops or trying to flirt with the contractors. So I took it upon myself. I had the original, and Ben thought he had his, which was actually the copy. I just kept his original safe. What was the harm? I was just being smart. Things were tense in the squad, not with me. Obviously, I was doing my job, doing it well. But there was this new guy, Specialist Miller. He was always trying to prove himself, always talking about how he knew more than everyone else. And he had this weird obsession with the equipment in the safe room, always asking about it, always wanting to see what was inside. It rubbed me the wrong way. Like, back off, buddy. It's not your business. One afternoon, we were gearing up for a patrol, and the LT asks for the keys to the safe room. He wanted to pull some extra comms gear for a new comms plan he'd dreamed up. And guess what? Ben, bless his heart, starts patting his pockets, looking all confused. Sir, I can't find them. My heart just sank. Not because I was worried about the keys. I knew exactly where they were. But because I knew this was going to be a whole thing. The LT got that tight-lipped look. The one that meant he was about to lose his cool. You lost the safe room keys. Private? He asks, his voice low. Specialist? Sir. Ben corrected him, which was a dumb move. Always correct your superior, especially when they're already mad. Right. Total passive-aggressive move. And no, sir, I don't know where they are. I had them just this morning. That's when I jumped in, because someone had to take charge. Sir, I said, stepping forward. I saw Specialist Miller with them earlier. He was messing with the lock, trying to get it open, saying something about how he thought it was jammed. Now, between us, Miller was a pest. He was always trying to get into that safe room, so it wasn't really a lie, more like a strongly implied truth. I mean, he was always around the safe room. It just made sense. It wasn't me being malicious, I was providing a plausible explanation, one that would make the LT look for someone else. The LT's eyes narrowed. Miller. Is that true? Miller, who was standing there looking completely bewildered, shook his head. No, sir, I never had the keys. I was just looking at the lock, trying to figure out how it worked. but I didn't touch anything. Oh, this kid, he just didn't know how to play the game. You always admit to something small to get out of something big. But no, he had to deny everything. Rookie mistake, you're lying. Miller, I said, my voice firm. I saw you. You had them in your hand. You were jiggling them around. I even pointed to where I saw him. I was good at this. Always have been. My dad used to say I could sell ice to an Eskimo. The LT looked between us, and then he looked at Ben, who was just standing there, looking utterly defeated. Too nice guy. Remember? He wouldn't throw me under the bus, even if I was throwing someone else. That's why I liked him. He was predictable. All right, the LT said. Ben, you're off the patrol. Go with Miller, and you two search every square inch of this fob until you find those keys. And if you don't find them by sundown, we're going to have a serious problem. Ben just nodded. His shoulders slumped. Miller started to protest again, but the LT just glared him down. That's an order, specialist. So they went off, two sad puppies, to search for keys I knew were in my ruck, and I went on patrol, feeling pretty good about myself. I'd saved Ben from getting reamed, and I'd gotten rid of Miller for the patrol, which was a bonus. He was always complaining about the heat, the dust, the weight of his ruck. It was annoying. The patrol was, well, it was a patrol. Nothing too exciting. We pushed out, cleared a few compounds, found some old shell casings, and then headed back. When we got back, it was dark, and Ben and Miller were waiting, and they looked even more miserable than before. Sir, we couldn't find them anywhere, Ben said, his voice hoarse. He looked like he'd been searching all day, which he probably had. The LT pinched the bridge of his nose. This is unacceptable. This is a secure area, and we have sensitive equipment in there. If those keys are out there, who knows who could get their hands on them? He looked at me. Sergeant Reynolds, you're sure you saw Miller with them? Positive? Sir, I said, looking him dead in the eye. You have to be confident. That's the key. Never waver. He was acting really strange. Too, like he was trying to hide them. And then, just to solidify my story, I decided to pull a little psychological warfare. I looked at Miller, gave him a small, knowing smirk. That's when his face went a little pale. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Bingo. He was cracking. The LT called the CO. You could hear him on the sat phone, talking in hushed, angry tones. Yes, sir. A potential breach? Security risk? We're investigating? Yes, sir. I understand the implications. The next few days were a nightmare. For Ben and Miller, anyway, they were confined to the FOB, essentially under investigation. Every time they weren't on a mission, they were searching. And I was just doing my job, going on patrols, pulling guard duty, pretending to be as concerned as everyone else. Ben tried to talk to me about it. Chloe, are you really sure you saw Miller? He swears he didn't have them. Ben, I said, rolling my eyes. What do you want me to say? I saw what I saw. Maybe he just forgot he had them. Or maybe he's trying to cover something up. People do weird things under stress. He just sighed. But why would he want to hide equipment? I don't know. Ben, I snapped. Maybe he's got a side hustle. Maybe he wants to impress some locals. How am I supposed to know what goes on in his head? I'm just telling you what I saw. He looked at me with that sad, puppy dog look. It just doesn't feel right. Well, too bad. Ben, life isn't always fair. Sometimes you have to take one for the team. I could see the frustration building in him. He was burnt out. He used to try, he really did, to make everything right, to see the good in people. But after months out there, he was just tired, and I guess I was contributing to that. But that wasn't my fault. Was it? He just needed to toughen up. Days turned into a week. The CO was furious. They even had a quick reaction force standing by, just in case someone had somehow gotten into the safe room. It was ridiculous. All because of a little white lie. Then, the official investigation started. Not just a casual find the keys thing. No, this was the real deal. CID was involved. Can you believe it? CD, for a set of keys. They were talking to everyone, asking the same questions over and over. And I stuck to my story. Every single time I saw Miller, he was messing with the lock. He had the keys. Miller, bless his naive little heart, kept denying it. He was probably convinced he was going to get a dishonorable discharge or something. He even tried to tell them that I was the one who was always around the safe room, always asking about inventory, which, okay, fine. I did know a lot about the inventory, because I'm good at my job, not because I was doing anything wrong. And besides, I was a woman. They wouldn't suspect me. They'd suspect the young, dumb kid who looked nervous. The CO even tried to get me to confess. He pulled me into his office, sat me down, and gave me the whole integrity speech. Sergeant Reynolds, he said, "This is a serious matter. If you are withholding information, or if you have fabricated a story, the consequences will be severe." I just looked him straight in the eye. "Sir, I understand the gravity of the situation, and I have told you everything I know. I saw Specialist Miller with the keys. I have no reason to lie. I even made my voice crack a little, just for effect. Weaponized vulnerability, you know. It works every time. He'd never believe a poor, emotional woman would lie about something so serious. It's a classic." He sighed, looked defeated. "All right, Sergeant, you're dismissed." I walked out of there feeling like a champion, like I'd just won the Super Bowl of lies. And I had, but then things got complicated. Ben started to get really withdrawn. He stopped talking to me as much, stopped coming to my bunk at night. It was annoying. I mean, I saved him. He should be thanking me. But he just seemed to be stewing in his own misery. He was so checked out, emotionally distant, like he'd given up. One night, he actually confronted me. "Chloe, I know you had the keys." I almost laughed. "What are you talking about?" "Ben? Don't be ridiculous." "No," he said, his voice flat. "I remember seeing your spare key ring, and the safe room key was on it. You never even tried to hide it from me." My heart pounded a little faster. How could he have seen that? I was so careful. I had to pivot. "Ben, that's absurd. You must have been mistaken. Maybe it was a different key. Or maybe you were just tired." Gaslighting expert. Remember, make him question his perceptions. He just looked at me, his eyes dead. "No, Chloe, I wasn't mistaken. And you lied. You lied about Miller, and you let him take the fall. For my mistake, it wasn't your mistake. Ben, you lost the key. I was just trying to protect us. Protect the equipment. You think they wouldn't have come down harder on you if I hadn't said something. You're being dramatic?" "Dramatic." He scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping him. "Miller's facing a court-martial." "Chloe, a court-martial. All because you lied, and I'm not sure I can look at you the same way anymore." And just like that, he was gone. Not like physically gone, but emotionally. He moved his bunk to the other side of the barracks. He stopped talking to me, stopped acknowledging me in the squad. It was like I was invisible, and it pissed me off. After everything I did for him, he was going to abandon me. The nerve. The court-martial for Miller was a joke. It was quick, brutal. They had no real evidence. But they had my testimony, and a few other things they probably twisted. Miller was found guilty of dereliction of duty and obstructing an investigation. He got a dishonorable discharge. Dishonorable? All for nothing. I heard he went home, got disowned by his family. His life was ruined. And you know what? It wasn't my fault. He should have been more careful. He should have just admitted to something, anything, to make it stop. But he was stubborn and stupid. Things only got worse after that. The atmosphere in the squad was terrible. Everyone was walking on eggshells. The LT, the CO, they were all looking for someone to blame, even after Miller was gone. And I, being the only one who seemed to have any control over the situation, became the target. One day, we were on a convoy. Pretty routine stuff. Dust, heat, same old, same old. Ben was driving the lead Humvee, and I was in the gun truck behind him. We hit an IED, not a big one, but enough to rock the truck, send shrapnel flying, and then we were under fire. It was chaos. Everyone was yelling, shooting. I was doing my job, returning fire, trying to keep my head down. And then, over the radio, I heard it. Ben's down. Driver's hit. My stomach dropped. Not because I cared about Ben. Not really. But because he was my responsibility. And if he was down, that meant, well, it meant things were going to get even more complicated. We dismounted, tried to lay down suppressing fire. But the enemy was dug in. We couldn't get to Ben. The LT was screaming into the radio, calling for a dust-off. But it was taking too long. Then I heard another voice. Specialist Miller? He was on the ground, wounded. But he was crawling towards Ben's Humvee. "I'm going for him," he yelled. "Miller." "No, stay down," the LT screamed. But Miller, that idiot, kept going. He got to Ben's Humvee, pulled him out. Ben was bleeding. Bad. Miller was trying to stop the bleeding. But he was exposed, completely vulnerable. And then a shot rang out. Miller fell, dead, just like that. I don't know why, but seeing him fall, seeing him die, it hit me. Not in a sad way, but in a holy crap, this is bad way. He was dead because of me, because I lied about the keys. If he hadn't been dishonorably discharged, he wouldn't have been in that position. He wouldn't have been trying to save Ben, trying to prove himself. He would have been safe, but I still didn't blame myself. He chose to go out there. He chose to be a hero. That's on him. The dust-off finally came. But it was too late for Miller. Ben was airlifted, barely clinging to life. He lost a leg, and he was done, medically discharged. His career, his life, everything gone. When I got back to the FOB, everyone was looking at me, not just the squad, but the entire company, like they knew, like they could see it in my eyes. The CO pulled me aside. "Sergeant Reynolds," he said, his voice flat. "I've been reviewing the testimony from the court-martial, and there are some inconsistencies. Sir, I don't know what you're talking about. I told the truth." "Did you, Sergeant?" he asked, his eyes cold, because we found the actual keys. In a compartment in Specialist Miller's old locker. He had them hidden there, thinking he could somehow use them to prove his innocence after he found them. My blood ran cold. "Wait. No, that's a forbidden phrase." My stomach just dropped. I felt a weird sensation, like a cold knot forming in my gut. What? Miller had the real keys. But that meant... So, the CO continued. "We now have reason to believe that your testimony was less than truthful. And in light of what happened today, with Specialist Miller's death, and Specialist Ben's injuries, we have a very serious problem." And just like that, my whole world started to unravel. The investigation was reopened, but this time, I was the target. They brought in even more people. And they found it. The copy, my original key, all of it. I was charged with perjury, with obstructing justice, with conduct unbecoming a soldier. It was ridiculous. I was just trying to do my job, trying to keep things secure. They didn't support me. They underestimated me. If I was a man, they wouldn't care. I was doing my best, and they made it worse. The court-martial was a blur. They paraded everyone up there. Ben, with his empty pant leg, looking at me with pure hatred. Other guys from the squad, saying I was manipulative, a liar. Even the LT, who had always seemed to believe me, testified against me. Traitors, all of them. I tried to explain. I tried to tell them I was just trying to protect the equipment, protect Ben. But they didn't listen. They just kept talking about accountability and integrity. Like I was some kind of monster. I was found guilty, dishonorably discharged, stripped of my rank, my benefits. Everything. I was sent home, not even allowed to finish my tour. My military career, which I had worked so hard for, was over. Just like that. And then the public fallout. It wasn't enough that my life was ruined. No. Someone, probably one of those bitter military wives, got a hold of the story, and it went viral. My name, my face, my crimes were everywhere. Facebook groups, TikTok, news articles. Toxic female soldier destroys lives. Lies lead to death and disfigurement. They called me a murderer, a psychopath. The whole internet hated me. I tried to get a job. Any job, but my dishonorable discharge. The public shaming, no one would touch me. I ended up living with my parents in Dallas, working odd jobs, barely making ends meet. My parents were ashamed of me. My old friends stopped calling. I was completely isolated. And Ben, he moved on. With a physical therapist he met at the VA, she was genuinely loving, sweet, everything I wasn't. I saw pictures of them online. Happy, smiling. She wasn't some bitch who just wanted to control him. And he looked happy, like he'd finally found peace. It made me sick. I don't regret my decisions. I regret how things turned out. I regret that Ben was so weak, that Miller was so stupid. I regret that everyone turned on me. I was just trying my best. And they made it worse. It's not my fault. It's theirs. They underestimated me. They didn't support me. And now, I don't care anymore. Not about Ben. Not about Miller. Not about anyone who isn't on my side. I'm bitter. I'm spiteful. But I'm not the one who messed up. They are, and they always will be,